6, verse 31. And these are the words of Jesus Christ. He said, "And as you would have that men should do to you, do ye also to them likewise. And as ye would that men should do to you," he said, "do you also to them likewise." In light of the recent events, and of course the protesting and the rioting and the sad demise of the young man that passed away, and it has, of course, brought a sense of awareness to the fact that there are many people across our society that are in need and have hurting hearts and are lacking in many areas, and also the need to enforce the laws of the land and find a balance between the two. I thought of the many billions of dollars that are being spent each year in addressing what governments and societies feel are the needs of humanity. Every year our Congress meets. In fact, our Congress, which is supposed to be a part-time job, actually has become a full-time job over the past few years of simply trying to perfect and critique the laws of society. New laws are constantly being created and old laws are constantly being rewritten to try to capture that ever-escaping answer that will bring rest to the upheavals, that are in our world. However, Jesus captured this in one simple verse in this recorded scripture of Luke chapter 6 and verse 31, when he said, "As ye would that men should do unto you, or do to you, do ye also," he said, "to them likewise." I remember a little program some not so long ago that our ladies promoted, and it was a blessing and inspiration to our ladies, and it was called the Secret Sister program. And what it entailed was the fact that our ladies drew names, and no one was supposed to know whose name, or to declare publicly whose name that they had drawn. And at a given time during the week, they would buy a little small, inexpensive gift to express appreciation and love for that sister that was in the church. I can remember when this program was instituted, and over a period of time, it was done a few times. I remember the excitement among the ladies, and to think that someone was going to give them a gift, which seemed to indicate that they were special, that somebody was thinking about them. And a lot of times it was maybe just a card, sometimes it was a coffee cup, sometimes it was just a fountain pen with a little small note telling them how they appreciated that individual. There were several things that really made it special. Number one was the fact it was a private ceremony, and so much that no one was to disclose. Of course, as we well know, it's hard for ladies sometimes to keep secrets. And through the grapevine, basically, many of them found out who was buying for them or who they were giving to. But the purpose of it was that they were not to disclose whose name they had. On any given date when they would leave that gift, they would try to leave it without the other person knowing that they had brought it to the church and left it in that assigned place where gifts were kept. And ladies would pass by that area, and they would pick up their little gifts, and they would go home with just a little uplift, just a little bit of an uplift. These inexpensive gifts reflected the thoughts and actions of people that became quite influential in brightening another person's day. The only downside was if some of them, actually those involved, were not faithful in remembering to bring a gift. And when they did this could begin the decline in giving and receiving. The statement that Jesus made, "As you would that men should do unto you," or "give unto you." I could use those words. As you would that Jesus was saying here that men would give to you. Give to you what? Give to you kind words, smiles, actions, gifts. It could cover any number of things. But it was an all-inclusive thing that everyone should want and desire to treat others as they themselves would like to be treated, and that would be fairly. This is something that I think that we all could agree on. However, it is the next part of the verse where it says, "Do ye also unto them likewise." Do you also unto them likewise. We all know how we would like to be treated, but Jesus also emphasized the fact it was not all about just receiving. It also involved giving. Our problem in the world today is not the receiving end. I'm sure that if I took $100 and stood on the corner in Gladewater, and as long as I had $100 and gave out those $100 bills, I would brighten a lot of people's day. However, over a period of time, unless there was some receiving, those dollars would eventually run out. Well, a lot of the things that we share today are far more important than a $100 bill. It's amazing what just a kind word, a kind thought, a smile might do in the life of someone else. So I'd like to say today that even though we enjoy being on the receiving side, receiving our next breath, receiving our next meal, receiving our next drink of water, our next pair of shoes, I think also it's important to realize there are those that would like to be on the receiving end also. But that will require that we that are receiving also would be involved in giving. Jesus did not specify on what days we were to treat others as we ourselves would like to be treated. He didn't put a time limit on it. He didn't give a specific date for it. He just said, treat others as you would like to be treated. This was a 24-hour command. All of the chaos and turmoil that is in our world today seems to reflect the fact that there are problems, but those problems could be solved if each and every man, woman, boy, and girl would take this one simple verse of Scripture and institute it in their lives. As you would that men should do unto you, do you also unto them likewise. I've heard a phrase used recently, and it says giving forward, or giving forward. And people would talk about being in the McDonald's lines to buy their food and find out that the person just ahead of them had paid for their food. And that was a neat experience. It brightened their day. They were encouraged by that, and they in turn felt inspired to do it for someone else. I many times will go to Lowe's to buy lumber, and I'm the kind of person that doesn't really like to ask for help, and I will wrestle with a heavy board, usually before I'll ask anyone else. I don't want to trouble anyone. However, I did go to the store recently and found that while I was loading some very heavy 4x8 sheets of treated plyboard that weighed about 90 pounds apiece, 80 or 90 pounds apiece, they were nearly, I think, 3/4 of an inch thick, I found it was a little bit of a trouble for me to wrestle them up on that particular dolly. But here came a gentleman about my same age, and he had a smile on his face, and he said, "Hey, would you like me to give you a hand with that?" And it made it so much easier, and I was on my way out the door before I knew it, and I was certainly not near as tired as I would have been if I hadn't have had his help. It helped make my day. And then I reflected back on the fact of the many times that I'd stopped along the way coming out of Lowe's to help somebody unload a dolly or load their truck or maybe tie something down. And I found out that it's good not only to give, but it's good to be on the receiving end. And so it's nice to know that when people do offer to give help, that if we'll be open to their kindness, we can receive a blessing, and they'll be blessed also in giving. Somebody said, "Well, Pastor, do you believe that I can change the world with that simple verse?" Well, you may not change the whole world, but you could very well change your world today by simply doing some things to others that you yourselves would like to be done unto you. God bless you. It's been a joy once again to meet with you, and I do hope and pray that you've enjoyed this pastoral chat. God bless you, and have a great week.